Okay, team, can you hear me now? Hopefully the polls can start again. Yes, can you hear me? We've got a few people that can hear me. Can everybody hear me now? Good morning. Yes, thank you very much. You can all hear me. Perfect. Excellent. Good start. So good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our first webinar. This is a bit of a surreal experience, I'm sure, for all. We are in unprecedented times. And I'm just going to close my notifications for Teams. So bear with me 1 second. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Leeson Medhurst, and I'm from Workplace Futures Group. And today we're going to be doing a webinar about business as usual in these unprecedented and unusual times. This is an interactive session, so it's about 40 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes long. And as you can see, I am working from my home office here in Guildford, so the Workplace Futures Group office in Guildford. I'm sure you're all distributed yourselves across the many offices that exist within your workplace at the moment. All of a sudden, each office has gained 10, 15, 20 different offices across the nation, across the globe even. So my colleague Kate is also joined us. She is the moderator today. If you have any questions, any concerns, if you want to add any content, then please do so. You'll be more than welcome to join in. This is a somewhat of a surreal time, I think, for all of us. We don't need any introduction to what is going on, and doing a webinar is in itself is actually quite interesting, quite strange. Normally, there's an audience in front of me that will either give me grief, will give me some feedback, smile, fall asleep. Interaction, but of course there's nothing. All I can see is a picture of myself. I'm hoping that you all can hear me. I'll have to trust that you can. There are 49 people apparently watching at this very moment, so please join me and have some fun along the way. So let's get started. So this next slide, of course, needs no introduction. We are at a critical stage of post-war Britain. Never have we been in such a dilemma. And of course, we are now bombarded with information across every news platform that exists about COVID-19. We have a thirst for knowledge, of course, in our modern society, and we have the ability to gain so much information, so much knowledge from different people, from different news mediums, social media, the internet, news channels, and very quickly we can get a lot of information from different channels, different opportunities. And of course, some of that information is not true, which is disappointing. And only yesterday there was talks of tanks and pictures of tanks that appeared on my WhatsApp feed of apparently rolling into London. Of course, none of it was true; it was fake news. But where we are at this point of this juncture, it was somewhat of a hysteria, and there is an element of panic that could be setting upon us because of what is happening. But the reality is, team, is that we are now working very differently to the way that we were working 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it's fair to say that our lives have changed somewhat in such a short period of time. If you think back 2 or 3 weeks ago to where we are now, it's almost unfathomable as to what's happening. So let me just share some insight with you, and this is quite interesting in itself. So before the COVID-19 breakout, what we did know, and through our own research and research that I've done over a number of years, is that 79% of the British workforce worked from home 1 day per week. Okay, now what that transpired into is that only 1% of those people were actually working from home for 4 days a week or more. Now, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, 41% of the rest of the populace don't have a dedicated room to work in, and then 39% of those people don't have a desk either. So just out of curiosity, how many of you now are actually, obviously are at home, but how many of you actually have a desk that you can work at right now? So there's a poll that's just been published online just here. If you could just take 2 seconds to answer that for me. Okay, so I can see the results live, and okay, interestingly, okay, so 60% of you, roughly 60% of you are now actually have a desk at home. Of course, that means that 40 is changing all the time. So as people are now obviously joining, 40% of you don't have a desk at home. So that means that some of you are now obviously on your bed, on your sofa, at the kitchen table, in your garage, in your shed, wherever you are, you're working. So of course, we're now operating outside of our norms, which in itself is causing some stress, some anxiety, which we need to think about and consider. The other thing that we did know, and through our research, is that, and one hates to be ageist here because I will very quickly find myself into the older category here. But Gen Zs, whatever you want to call them, millennials, there's lots of modern words and terminology for them, but they seem to be more adaptable to this whole working from home concept. Whereas people who are perhaps a little bit older are less adaptable to it. Now, it's not saying that they can't, it's more a case of that they are not used to it. So if you think about the fact, let's say you've been wearing a suit, you've been getting dressed, you've been getting on the train for the last 25 to 30 years, and you're now no need to travel into the office, it's a problem. So it's going to be a change of the norms. There's a big change management process part that we need to go through that's being forced upon us through no fault of our own. Now, work has fundamentally changed, but I'm not sure that we have, and this is something that we need to embrace as well. Now, in our work, and most of our offices, most companies now do adopt a form of agile working, and by agile I mean smart working. The word agile comes from the IT industry, and is somewhat it's meaningless in this environment. But in terms of the smart working, most of us have the ability to choose a space that we want to use depending on the task that we have in hand. Think of this as as the business lounge in an airport. When one is traveling, you arrive, you have a choice of where you might want to sit, depending on if you've got to do some work or you want to enjoy your champagne and canapes. But most offices now have hot desking, agile spaces, collaboration, scrum zones, different types of working environment. And of course, all of us are most of us are used to the whole martini working concept, where we have the ability to work anytime, any place, anywhere. And it's fair to say that I would suggest that most of us took our mobile phone on holiday the last time we went on holiday. Seems some time ago I'm sure for many, and it may be sometime in the future before we can do that again. But think back when we went on holiday last time, most of us probably took our mobile telephone. And it's fair to say, I'm sure most of us then responded to a work email during that period as well. So what we're talking about here is the ability to communicate from different locations. However, don't forget, of course, that is for short periods of time. When we are traveling on holiday, when we are traveling for work, it's concentrated time. It is not for long periods of time, and we're not in isolation. There are people around us. But of course, now we are now being forced to work from home, and through no fault of our own, through pressures, of course, we're having to work in a location that perhaps is not what we're used to, and everything is now turned upside down. Now, looking forward, and again through research that we've done, I would like to just talk about the complexities of actually working from home itself. Now, really and truly, this covers 4 spheres, and as you can see from the Venn diagram here, we have our behavior, we have the emotional, we have the physical, and the virtual aspect that we need to consider. Now, the work from home is not for everybody, and I've written a blog about this, which will be published very soon, and I genuinely believe that once this dust has settled, we will return to the workplace. Whenever that may be, it will be at some point in the future, we will go back to the workplace, because not everybody can work from home. There are some people now that are talking about that this is going to change the way that we interact, change that we work. Yes, to a certain degree, but fundamentally, when the time comes, we will return back to work, because we are creatures of habit, which I'll talk more about in a couple of slides' time. But we do actually need to be around people. So the complexities of working from home is behavior. We are people. We like our things. We like our place, and we like process. We like to have a process in which we can think about. We need to be understood to have well-being around us. The culture of what we want to do, our physical place, and the digital place as well. So how many of us are now working from home, which I'm sure is most of us, have had some challenges with IT infrastructure over the last week? If you actually look at the news, Vodafone said last night that there's been an uptake of their system by 50% in broadband technology and broadband. The need of broadband over the last week has risen by 50%. Netflix last night said on the BBC News feed, I don't know people who saw this, that they're having to reduce or are offering to reduce the quality of the program, not the content, sorry, quality of the content, but the actual quality of the digital signal by 25 to 30% to free up the demand on the infrastructure, broadband infrastructure at the moment. So when you look at all of those spheres within the Venn diagram, that all comes together and it really centers around trust. How many people feel trusted within working from home? And how many of you actually now speaking to your boss, your leaders, the leaders of the organization, you know, and do you feel trusted? Do you actually feel part of the organization at the moment? Because there's now pressure on an individual, there's pressures on you and I to make sure that we're visible, that we're actually having output. And in this pressure community and this pressure environment that we now work, where we're bombarded with information, bombarded with worry, that we want to make sure that we're trusted, that we're doing our job, and that we're going to keep our jobs in the coming weeks, in the coming months. And that's the common theme, the common thread that is existing at the moment within the workplace, within our experience of working from home. And well-being is an important factor. We need to make sure that 40% of you that don't have a desk at home at the moment, that you're sitting comfortably, that you're doing your work efficiently, that we don't look at those, and that we don't oversee or put oversight of the well-being issue. And there's a responsibility that we have as employers to make sure that we're looked after, we give you the right things to do, the right information, but we need to feel trusted as users moving forward. Now, team, there is an epidemic within the modern world of loneliness. And what's going to happen is that this coming weeks, these coming months are only going to shine a light on the fact that we have loneliness. And of course, we've all heard of FOMO, our fear of missing out. And how many of us have started to turn to social media, be it Instagram, be it Facebook or LinkedIn, to try and stay connected? I know the Facebook have researched this week and have said that their activity is increasing far beyond that of their normal peak period of New Year's Eve. So people are now trying to stay connected within the social media aspect. But also, let's not forget that going to the office, and this is why I believe that the office will still exist even after this pandemic, is that we are creatures of habit. If you look at Maslow's law of hierarchy, and I am not here to start to preach about Maslow, but if you look at right in the center of that is the belonging, is the social interaction. As human beings, we need to feel belonged. We need to feel that we are part of something. Why has the church existed for so long? Because we want to go somewhere. It's a crutch. It's a belonging, and some people don't like going to work. That's a reality. People will suffer with the Monday morning blues. But let's not forget. But when you get there, you interact with people. You have a laugh. You chuckle. You enjoy social activities. You go out to the pub, whatever it may be. And of course, what's going to happen over this coming period is that we're in isolation, and we will have this fear of missing out. And we need to start to get creative. We need to think about how we can create those sinews of connectivity that we all feel part of the team, part of the community. So we have our remote team, and I'm sure most of us now are actually working remotely, and it's not going to be perfect. As I alluded to a few slides ago, I'm sure there's been people that have had some connectivity issues, some broadband issues. You are putting immense strain on your home life, on your work life, and people have now been forced to rush through and implement IT infrastructure and IT systems that perhaps they weren't used to. More importantly, some people may not have actually had a working from home policy as well. So I'm just going to quickly run a second poll, or a third poll here, sorry. Who actually has a working from home policy? So before the epidemic, how many people actually had a work from home policy? Okay, wow. So give it a couple of seconds for the poll to finish. Okay, so staggeringly, I'm surprised by that, but 71% of us who are here today, 54 currently who are in the webinar, 71% of us didn't actually have a working from home policy. So of course now we have been forced to work in this remote, isolated way, where we are completely outside of our norm, and a huge change that we're not ready for. Now, of course, that's going to bring challenges, and we are not ready necessarily for them, and cracks will appear. And what my advice would be then to all people that are now listening and part of this webinar that are involved is, let's not concentrate on the cracks. We need to find solutions, and it's time to embrace the way in where we are, and don't focus on the voids, because there will be problems, there will be challenges. There is no doubt about that. But what we need to do is we need to come together to focus on solutions to the problem in hand. Now, there'll be lots of people, and you would have seen it yourselves, team, people that are here today, within the BBC News websites, Sky News, everywhere you go at the moment, there's lots of people that are peddling ideas and top tips. And they are really centered around time management. And as you can see here, I've got some myself. We're not here necessarily to start preaching about what you should be doing in terms of time management, but I think there are some fundamentals that we can live by. Now, my recommendation, of course, is that set your alarm. As you do. I mean, this is almost laughable, and not wishing to teach people to suck eggs. But get up at your normal time, eat breakfast, and get dressed. Don't stay in your PJs. As comforting as it may be, the fact that you may not be seen, people are not going to come and go, don't do it, because it doesn't put you in the right frame of mind. Now, all of a sudden, guys, as well, you're going to have an element of time on your hands that you can actually give back to yourself, because you no longer have a commute. Now, time to perhaps get creative. We've got some ideas towards the end of the presentation about how one might get creative, but go for a run, go for a walk, get training. Think about that mental well-being, that breath of fresh air. Nobody has said at the moment that we can't actually go outside. We are not in lockdown within the UK. And I read it with interest last night that people are encouraging us to go to big open outdoor spaces and still obviously remain away from other people, but we can still get outside, get a breath of fresh air, break the routine in terms of the monotonous internal routine. Now, the other, I suppose, again, not wishing to teach people to suck eggs, but the other area of concern that people will have is distractions. Now, as of today, as of 4 o'clock today, most children will be away from school. They'll be coming home for the last time, and people are talking that it will be until September time, after the summer holidays. They'll be going back for the autumn term. Now, the reality is, and I think we all need to appreciate, that we're going to have children at home. Those of us that have children, they're coming home. Unless you are a key worker, and I can't believe that anybody within this chat room today will be a key worker because you're within the environment that we work in. You're all obviously very important people, but we're not defined as key workers within the government's list of those individuals. So we have to embrace the fact that children are here, and we're going to get distracted. And when a child comes bowling in, it's going to happen. It's not just going to happen for me. It's going to happen for your boss. It's going to happen for your senior leadership team. This is reality now. We're going to have the distractions of children. Embrace it. Spend time with them. You know, this is the time that we all crave, is to get to know our children a little bit better, help them with their homework, get them disciplined, make sure they're doing what they should be doing, they're engaged with their schoolwork, because the school teachers are now having to work remotely exactly the way we are. The notifications, or the distractions I'm talking about, is notifications. And we talk about fake news. It's very easy to get distracted by WhatsApp, by Teams, by Skype, a number of different things. If you've got something to do and you want to do it, the best thing to do, like you would at work, is just avoid those distractions, and make sure you turn them off as quickly and as promptly as possible. But the other thing I would say is that because we're now not in the office, let's not forget that we don't have to be sat at our desk for 8 hours, because being present is not actually going to be effective, and there's nothing to prove here. So you wouldn't do it in the office. You wouldn't just sit at your desk meaningless for 8 hours. You would be interacting with different people, you'd be walking around, you'd be going out for lunch, and you'd be keeping yourself active and mobile. So don't change that. Sitting at your desk, expecting to answer emails promptly, quickly, because you're worried about the trust issue, don't do that, because people won't, there's nothing to prove here. People are not going to see you. You can answer at any time you want now. So we're now at an interesting juncture, as I see it. So that was really peddling the top tips that a lot of you would have seen via different news mediums over the last couple of days. But this is my take on it, in as much as that today we're an interesting juncture. So 72% of us don't have a working from home policy. So by default, all of a sudden, that 72% of you that I'm talking to here that now have an increasing amount of autonomy. You're allowed to do what you want, when you want at the moment, within reason. So traditionally, you've had dependency. You've depended on your boss. You've had to go to the office, and you've seen visibility of your line manager, your leader, whoever that is, your team individual. But now all of a sudden you have complete autonomy, and we have an autonomous crisis to a certain extent. But let's embrace it. Now, this may be an opportunity for you to start thinking about how you work, when you work, and when you're best active. So there's lots of people within the marketplace at the moment that talk about this. It's not new. I'm again not teaching anybody to suck eggs, but many of you will probably already know that whether you're a morning person or an evening person. I'll give you an example. My good wife, she is a swimmer, and she thinks nothing about getting up in the morning at 5:30 and being in the pool for 6. It fills me with dread. I couldn't dream of doing that. Whereas conversely, coming home of an evening, 8:30 of an evening, sitting on the bike, pumping out some miles, love it. Whereas that's not her cup of tea. She would much rather be getting into her PJs, ready for bed, and doing different things. Now, one of the things I would encourage you to do is start thinking about the way you work and the best way that you work. What we can do after this webinar is we can share some of the surveys online that you can do, but what it will tell you is that your best working time. So how you should actually start to plan your day around what is best for you. So you're a morning person, or are you an evening person? And of course, the other thing we need to think about is when we're in the office, our bosses normally dictate the rhythm of the team. So the team will be working in a certain way. So we have to meet on a certain time, at a certain length, and for a certain topic. Now that we're at home and we have autonomy, we can actually start to dictate what the rhythms are. And it's down to us to actually make sure we communicate that across a broader spectrum. And as leaders, or leaders of men, leaders of people, leaders of our team, we need to make sure that we're actually individually picking up the rhythms of those individuals. So he or she may be working very differently at different times of day, and given that autonomy, we need to pick up on it. However, one of the things that we need to do is we need to start thinking about whatever we do, whatever time of day best suits us, is start planning about what we want to do. So work out what we want to achieve, write it down, have a plan, but share what's happening. And this was a very interesting learning curve for me. Now, doing what I do, I speak to quite a few large corporations, and there are some companies that have actually made the step change away from face-to-face meetings. I have for many years thought of a meeting as being face-to-face. You go somewhere, you go to an office, you go to a coffee shop, a place to meet somebody. You sit down and you shake hands and you chat face-to-face. People buy people, don't they? Whereas, of course, what a lot of companies have started to do, and big corporates have started to move away from the face-to-face meetings, and are actually having Skype meetings. It's still a meeting. Things still happen. You are virtual rather than being present. It is a learning curve, a bit weird, and like speaking to you today, I'm trusting that you can also hear me. But you're having these virtual meetings, but it's still a meeting nonetheless. And what I would encourage you to do is make sure they're in your diary and share that information and share outcomes. Now, I talked about FOMO and the fear of missing out. Think about those individuals that don't have people at home at the moment. So perhaps that they don't have family, they don't have wives, they don't have children, they're on their own. They're going to want to stay connected. They want to be part of something. So sharing outcomes and having communication with those people is going to be equally as important. Get people involved. We need to get creative here to make sure that we're connected and sharing outcomes as quickly as possible is going to be key to success. Keep connected. I just mentioned that. Now, the key here is making sure that we're all on the same platform. And we have loads. There's loads of different platforms we can choose from Teams to Skype. One of the same thing, of course, nowadays, to Zoom, to WhatsApp, to Google Hangouts. You know, the list is endless. Slack, I think, is there as well. The list is endless. The key thing here is to make sure we're all on the same platform, because if somebody's using Slack and somebody's using Teams, we're not joined up, things will get lost and things will get lost in translation. The other thing I would encourage you to do is turn the camera on. Don't be shy. There's nothing more engaging than making sure you can see somebody. Fine, if you're happy to sit there in your PJs, I don't advise it, and I'm sure your colleagues probably won't want to see your PJs, but nonetheless, turn the camera on. Don't be shy, because like you would in the office, it's all about visual expression, seeing somebody, seeing the whites of their eyes. Are they engaged? Are they happy? Because you can tell a lot from the way somebody's looking and the way somebody's, how they're feeling on a given day. If you're hidden behind the camera off and all you can hear is their voice, it's amazing how you can actually put something on. People become keyboard warriors, an avatar of themselves. Having that contact, that visual contact, is going to be incredibly important. And what do we do when somebody wants to raise that flag of concern? Now, the virtual cafe is one of the ideas I would propose that we all start to participate in. Sounds a bit weird, perhaps, but I did a project last year for a client in Munich, and what they did is they had the virtual lunch, and they had users that were based in London, in Boston, in Paris, and in Munich. And whilst they all work for the same team, they could be in HR, they could be in marketing. They of course were distributed across different time zones and in different locations. So what they did is once a week they would have a virtual lunch, and they would all sit down, grab their sandwich, their soup, whatever it may be. They would sit in front of Skype, turn the camera on, and they would just chat. And it was a good way to actually stay connected, and it was a good way to share ideas. What have you been doing? What have you been up to? Nice haircuts, nice glasses, silly hair, Leeson, whatever it may be. But it's an opportunity to stay connected. And guys, we all need to be told we're doing a good job, and we are creatures of habit. We're humans, and that's Maslow's law of hierarchy as talked about, social interaction. Who doesn't like to be told they're doing a good job? Who doesn't like a pat on the back? We all do, of course we do. And having the virtual cafe or the virtual coffee together is again an opportunity for us to raise a concern. Hey, Toby's my boss, and I might be saying, Toby, can we have a quick coffee? There's no reason why we can't do it virtually. Not feeling good about that. Why I'm worried about this. Can we do this, etc. And conversely, it's a way to share ideas as well. Now, team, cabin fever and avoid burnout. Avoid burnout. Now, this may sound strange, given that we're now at home, we don't have to travel anywhere, but we are very at risk at the moment of actually becoming burnt out, because cabin fever is real. Whether you live in a 6-bedroom house, if you're incredibly lucky to live in a huge mansion, 6-7-bedroom house, down to a 1-bedroom apartment, it won't be long before those walls start to feel as if they're creeping in, and very quickly we're going to become, frustrated, very bored. And of course, with boredom becomes, we start to argue, we start to get distracted, we start to get stressed, and of course, we start to eat as well. I do, as a natural reaction to being bored. You go to the fridge and you start to eat. And I think what we're trying to say here is, what I'm trying to say is, don't be here. Avoid the stress, avoid the fake news as much as we can. Try to retain a modicum of discipline and carry on as much as you possibly can. But take breaks. One of the things I'm trying to encourage a lot of the clients that I'm talking to as well is take a break whenever you need to, because you would do in the office. If you fancy a coffee, go and have a coffee. My wife, I noticed yesterday, she went from 9 o'clock until 2 o'clock in the afternoon without taking a break. She didn't move, she didn't have a drink, and she didn't get anything to eat. And that's not normal. You wouldn't do that in the office. So make sure we're keeping hydrated, we're fluid, we're moving around, because it's about mental well-being as well. Spend time with the family. They're going to be there, and don't argue with them. It's very, very difficult, but the walls will start to creep in. Get out as much as you can. Remember, we're in this together. Try to have fun. Now, as an organization, I'm going to share some of the ideas that we're having. And I know Kate is coming up with some fantastic ideas within our marketing team. But we're going to bring an element of gamification within our organization, which we can share with you today. And you would have seen it, I'm sure, if you're a member of a gym. A lot of our gyms are now starting to create the online workout. This is by no means new. I can remember growing up as a young man, you'd have the fitness channels on morning TV, or the guys that were doing their fitness videos. And I can remember my mother, of course, standing in front of the TV with dumbbells and her leggings and leg warmers, doing all sorts of keep fit activities. You know, it's not new. We're going to have to go back, and the gym, certainly my gym, I noticed this morning, is actually promoting now online activities. You know, Joe Wicks has been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years, and of course have made a mint from it. So there's no reason why we can't stay connected, stay healthy via virtual workplaces or virtual gyms as well. Strava. I'm sure there's many runners and cyclists out there that are connected at the moment. So what we have done as Workplace Futures, we've created a Strava club. Now, what we want to do is try and see if we can get a connected run or a connected cycle, so we're all on together, to see who can actually create the most amount of miles within this period of time, the fastest time, whatever it is, but we're all achieving or going for a goal. So there's a goal there we're looking to reach out and get to as well. Or Zwift. Again, this is obviously mainly for cycling and runners, but Zwift is the interactive online gaming portal that you're actually doing exercise to, and you can actually run and cycle together as a team. So those of you that have it, if you're interested, of course, we can share more information. Not that we are purveyors or related to Zwift at all, but we're just fans of the product. But if you're looking to create a club ride or a club run, then you can do it within Zwift very easily and very intuitively as well. But finally, one of the things I'd like to sort of discuss is sharing. Is sharing what we're all up to. Now, we can all create a hashtag very quickly. In fact, most of us will probably do it if we are on Instagram, any social media. The rise of the hashtag has grown over the last 10 years. But we can all create our own individual hashtags. And why not on a Friday create some sort of live platform, a live board, where every Friday we're sharing exactly what we're up to. And it doesn't matter what we're up to, but it's a way that we can actually stay connected. So we're taking photographs and we are tagging our own unique hashtag as an organization, and we're creating this live interactive wall. And all of a sudden, Leeson's there doing a webinar. Kate maybe at home at the moment, she's moderating the webinar, and what everybody else is ever doing, you know, people maybe sat on the sofa, they're sat at the kitchen table, sat on their bed, and taking photographs in our connected world. And we're sharing it as a group activity, and we can see it, and we can just still, as an opportunity for us to reach out and see what people are up to. I think, team, what I'd like to say and to finalize is that we are at an interesting juncture in terms of our working lives at the moment. We've been forced to work in a way that we haven't been used to or not used to. Some of us are just not set up for it. It is an opportunity for us to address the way that we do things, working out exactly how we work, how we do work when we work best. But really leaving on some key topics is staying connected, making sure people feel part of the ongoing team, that we do feel we have that connection, there's somebody to speak to. And for those individuals that don't have anybody at home to speak to, that they want to feel part of something that's a bigger organization, a bigger trust as well. Keeping fit, keeping healthy, and keeping as part of this community as well. We're working together. You know, nobody knows what's going to happen over the short to medium term. You know, nobody knows. We're all looking to individuals. We're looking up the chain to the government. And as much as a statesman as Boris is being at the moment, love him or hate him, he's doing as best as he possibly can. We just don't know. You know, we just don't have answers at the moment. But what we need to do is obviously come together as a community, come together as a common workplace, and share ideas and thoughts. This is our first webinar today. I do hope you've enjoyed it. It's been now 40 minutes in its longevity and its length. I don't know if anybody has any questions in any chat, but if anybody does have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Alternatively, we can actually take these afterwards. But I thank you for joining me today. As promised, 40 minutes. It's coming up to the 40-minute window now. Please do ask any questions, and this will be available later on as a recording, weirdly. Not that I'm going to watch it back myself, there's nothing worse. But if you want to participate, share it with any colleagues, then would be more than happy to send you the link. Thank you very much indeed. Have a, just see if we've got any questions here. Sorry, Bo, do you want me to staying active if you can't leave the house? Thank you, Georgia. Yes, of course. I mean, in terms of staying active, so most of our gyms, I mean, certainly my gym have just released an online video. Joe Wicks, of course, has you can get most of his stuff online in YouTube. Just search into YouTube, HIIT training sessions or keeping active from home. YouTube is a fantastic tool. It's also a massive productivity killer. You'll end up spending hours on it and losing days within YouTube. But there is as an opportunity for us to actually get a lot of content from YouTube, and you can actually get quite a lot of videos. And most of us, of course, have got a sitting room of some sort with a TV. We can stream YouTube to our TVs or via the devices, portable devices, and you can actually keep quite active there. Stretching, of course, is very, very good. I'm not a PT. I don't want to start telling people what they can and can't do, but I think if you do search via YouTube, you'll find a plethora of information you can actually work to. Thank you very much. Any other questions? So thank you, Georgia. Question, Ben, quick question, how the site team is dealing with this? I don't know at the moment, Ben. I would like to leave that. Perhaps we can pick that up as a separate question internally. Okay, so Georgia has also asked another question. She's noticed that her emails have increased. How do you manage your inbox time to ensure you stay as productive as possible? Well, I think email is somewhat of a reactive methodology rather than or reactive tool, isn't it, rather than proactive tool. What I would suggest there is again, one of the things I was taught when I was first introduced to email is that we have email time. So whether it be 8 till 10 over lunchtime at the end of the day. So trying to keep periods where you're actually being reactive rather than proactive. We should certainly start to carve our time up into reactive and proactive time. That doesn't change. You do it in the office, why not do it at home? I think it is very, 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 very important for us to not be distracted, and email can be a huge distraction. So try and, if you can, carve it up and keep it as reactive and proactive as well. Working from home, there is a what we can talk about here. So work from home, talk about equipment, work from home furniture. It isn't equipped for work from home. Well, Stuart's asked that question. So Stuart, of course, being our furniture guru, internal furniture guru, he's right. And as some of you will, as we mentioned earlier on, 70% of us, over 70% of us, are not set up to work from home. So it does mean that we're going to offer or suffer with back pain, not sitting properly. Our posture is going to suffer. We're not going to be sitting the right way, not sitting comfortably at all. So go to YouTube. There's some yoga videos that we can do, and Stuart is recommending some YouTube videos. They're 10-minute workouts. Best way to start the day. What I'm going to do there, team, is I think I'll call it a day. We're coming up to the 40-minute window. I thank you very much for everybody joining. If you do have any questions, please then send them on. We can answer them individually. But thank you very much. And we will see you all soon. If you do have any other ideas for another webinars, then more than happy to participate, and we'll be back, I'm sure, very shortly. Look out for more news coming soon. Thank you.